Servus Männer, it's Red Pill Germany again. Today I want to go over an article by a German journalist who is, I believe, reporting from the United States about the campaign, about the upcoming election to a German audience for a German newspaper, Die Zeit Online. And this might be interesting to you guys because this woman is, in my opinion, it is very clear that she is lying to the German public about what is going on in the United States. And there have been very, very bad cases before. I reported about that on my channel too. A guy, a shooting star of journalism who won all sorts of prizes. Let's call him Klaus Rhinoceros. Yeah, so he even got a prize from CNN and the German Journalist Award, whatever. Yeah, it turned out that his interviews were faked. The people that he allegedly or that he interviewed or he claimed to have interviewed didn't even exist, or he changed their names and their age. And I think only the places where he went, they were correct. The names of the towns, that was the only thing that was correct about his award-winning articles about the darker side of the United States, about the evil redneck Trump voters. So, the case that I present to you today is not as bad, but, well, at the same time, I think it's even worse. So, in some aspects, not as bad. Like, it is not as much a fairy tale as what Mr. Rhinoceros wrote, but it is pretty bad because the subject matter is way more important and way more serious. So in today's video, I want to go over this article that she wrote about the Biden campaign. Mostly, she was critiquing the Biden campaign, and it is very illuminating. It is very interesting. You can see what kind of a person she is, what her beliefs are, and I will tell you how she lies to the Germans. And she is active on Twitter also. She doesn't only lie to the Germans, she is also on social media. She's active and she is spreading these lies, this misinformation also in English. So she has, of course, contacts in the United States, and she also, in that sense, is an activist. Yeah? She is spreading misinformation in order to help the Democrats, in order to help Biden. And it might be interesting for you that not only PBS, CNN, MSNBC are doing that. No, it is also German newspapers and German journalists that are in the United States, as I read on the website Die Zeit, because lately Die Zeit, it used to be a liberal newspaper, but you cannot really even count on the fact that they can use the German language properly anymore these days. So they said, sie berichtet aus den USA, and that means she reports from the US, not about the US, but from the US, meaning that she is there right now. That's how I read it, at least, if you take the German language seriously and if you analyze, or if you think about what that sentence means, it would mean that she is in the US right now as a correspondent. That means she is a foreign operative, basically, currently in the US trying to swing the elections. But let's talk a little bit about the article that she wrote. So it's a 2-page online article, 2-part, let's say, because there aren't really pages, right? So in the first part, she tries to say that the Biden campaign, or Joe Biden, he presents himself as the anti-Trump, as the good guy, and the headline of her article is also, he is the good guy. Er ist der Gute, or something like that. Okay. And she critiques that now because she says Biden is talking, what he's talking about is like a minimal consensus among the liberal half of America. He is not getting into the specifics, like how he wants to change the country, what kind of economic programs he has, what kind of social policies. She wants more meat and potatoes. She wants more actual facts, an actual detailed program. And yeah, that is fair criticism, I would say. This is something you can critique, but then it becomes really interesting. She says that Joe Biden um, said in a recent speech that if you are committing vandalism or if you assault people or something like that, then this is no longer a protest. That stops being a protest. And he wants Americans to be secure, safe from diseases, let's say, current one, and also safe from harm and violence and crime, right? So he also wants to cultivate some kind of law and order image. He wants to rival Trump in that field, and they just end up blaming each other. You're the bad guy. No, you're the bad guy. No, you're the bad guy. They try to blame the other side, that they are in fact responsible for the mayhem that you see in the US right now. And she criticizes that. And I would still um, say that that is a completely rational critique coming from the left, that this is strategically maybe not so clever, because this is lip service of Biden. He wants not to he wants to take care not to scare off the middle class Democrat voters, right, who might have become afraid that the mob will turn up on their front lawn one of these days also. So this is why Biden wants to say, oh, no, 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 this is not a protest. This has no place in my America, right? That is what Trump is doing. He adds fuel to the fire, right? So we all know why Biden says that, but she says this is strategically wrong because you can't win this. I mean, some people will vote Democrats anyway, and those who are undecided, you can't win over to the Democrat side by trying to beat Trump on the law and order uh, part of the game, or in that field, in that resort. You can't do it, and that's a bad idea. Okay, it's an opinion, right? And so far, I wouldn't even criticize that woman. Okay. By the way, links in the description below if you want to find out who she is. I'm not going to name her name, but at least I have to give my sources. So links down below. Check it out. And but then it becomes interesting. She says that instead of just saying what I just said, that okay, this is some lip service, Biden doesn't want to scare these people off, and I think she mentions that too. But then it becomes interesting. She says that that is a slap in the face to all those oppressed minorities and these downtrodden people who wish for real systemic change and social justice and reparations and all that stuff. But systemic change. And you must know that this woman, she's not only is she a raging feminist, she also worked for the newspaper Taz. Yeah, and that is a communist newspaper. Die Zeit, where this article appeared, it used to be a liberal newspaper, and now it's far left, I would say, very far left. But Die Zeit, now that's an actual Antifa newspaper, okay? And she worked a long time for that, and yeah, her texts speak for themselves, or for herself, actually. Yeah. So when these kinds of people use the term systemic change, I hope that you all know what that means, right? It means the overthrow of our democratic system, the overthrow of the American Republic, the overthrow of the capitalist free market system. She wants to bring about communism, of course. Yeah? And this is what she means by systemic change. That's all that this can mean when it comes from a person like that. And that is not even the most interesting part. Yeah, and she said then, oh, the burden will be then on Kamala Harris to change the policies, or to influence the policies so that these people get justice after all, right? But then it also becomes interesting. Yeah, the most interesting part for me is that she presents the recent drastic events that unfolded. Um, there is this 17-year-old guy. I mean, my channel is not about explaining the US news to English speaking people. I think there are channels from the US that do that much better. So unless you were living under a rock, you know exactly what happened in the last days. You know, the lives that were lost, etc. And there were two main cases. One of them was a 17-year-old patriot, conservative, what have you, and he was clearly acting in self-defense. Now she doesn't say that. She said he killed two people, yeah, and that's what she said, right? And that he is an extremist. And then the other case where a conservative, yeah, that she calls ultra right wing, was killed. She says that, oh yeah, there were some scuffles between two groups, there were some fist fights apparently, Rauferei, that's the word she used. And yeah, then later someone ended up dead. It's like she almost makes it sound like, that the person who is working for the city, who sweeps the streets at 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. in the morning, that somewhere near a dumpster he found a body, right? This is not what happened, right? And she says, yeah, but we don't know who it was and why that person lost his life. We really don't know. Really, seriously. Like in both cases, one of them clear self-defense, one of them we have video footage where we hear they scream, oh, hey, we have a, what are they saying, a Trump supporter here, huh? And then seconds later, bam, bam, yeah. So in both cases, we have video footage, and she's acting like we don't have that, like it's like the 19th century and Sherlock Holmes will arrive soon at the crime scene, and he took from the crime scene, he collected tobacco ashes samples, and because he cross-referenced all the kinds of tobaccos, he can clearly make a bold conclusion about who the culprit has been. No, seriously, we have video footage. We don't need to play Sherlock Holmes here, or wait for investigate. I mean, yes, sure, she can say allegedly or something, right? Of course, there hasn't been a trial yet, there hasn't been a verdict yet, sure. But to act as if this video footage didn't exist, that is rich. I mean, that, and then presenting it just the other way around. So I was reprimanded recently by a scholar of law that I use the word lie way too liberally, sorry. Okay, so I call it a lie still, but if you don't want to call it a lie, at least you can maybe concede that what this woman writes in her article is 100% in contradiction to the video evidence that we have of these two events. Yeah, she is presenting it just the other way around. Just the complete opposite of what is clearly being of what can be seen and what can be clearly heard in those videos. And the evidence is really overwhelming that one case was self-defense and the other case was, well, I would say an execution, yeah. And she lies to the German readers, and maybe German people, they don't really search the internet for English videos from the United States, and they might not know. So these German normies, they read that stuff in Die Zeit, and they actually believe that stuff, but it's a blatant lie. So I want you to wrap your head around that. There is this Marxist feminist woman who was sent to the US to cover the elections as a correspondent in the South, somewhere, wherever, yeah, you can find out if you want to. And she is lying to the Germans about what happened. It's a clear lie. And if CNN does that, we have gotten used to it by now, right? But I just thought maybe this is interesting information for you guys, that not only your domestic media in the US is spreading this misinformation, because of course they're tribal and they're partial here. They are clearly supporting the Democrats. They don't want Trump to win, sure. So they tell all sorts of lies. But you have Germans who also do that, you know. And she didn't just write the article like I just described to you. She retweeted some colorful religious cult person, whatever, bishop, something, I don't know. And you can see it on her Twitter feed. She retweeted that. And when you retweet something without comment, it normally means you approve, especially when you are ideologically aligned with these people to begin with. So there is no reason to believe she doesn't believe that. And she's just too cowardly to just write it herself. So she retweets someone who said it. Yeah, that guy said that what this 17-year-old kid did was cold-blooded murder. Yeah, yeah, but it wasn't. And we know it wasn't. It was self-defense. It's pretty clear, yeah? And I'm sure a court will find out. And like in the case with the Covington kid, with that Catholic schoolboy who had the audacity to smile at someone who was getting into his face, and people who insulted them with all kinds of horrible words and slurs. Yeah, he smiled, and that is why he was presented to the nation as a horrible, horrible, horrible supremacist. And yeah, later on, he sued. I think you know the story, and it became pretty expensive then for CNN, I think it was. And this is a similar case, I would say, but this time it's not about a boy smiling. This time it's for real. This time I mean, people lost their lives, and we have videos of it, video evidence, clear, and they lie about it still. Yeah. So I just wanted to mention that. And of course, there are some more hidden gems in that article. For example, that she calls, these middle class Democrat voters that Biden doesn't want to scare. She calls them privileged. And this comes from a German girly, some German millennial girly, who is, of course, among the most privileged people on the face of the planet. And she has to point fingers at other white people and call them privileged. And she has to act as if she was on Team Colorful. Yeah, but what does she do if the mob comes to her parents' house or to her friend's house? Is she gonna do the Rachel Dolezal thing and hopes that no one notices that she's the whitest woman that you can find, unless she's one of those people that are not really white but that pass for white, if you know what I mean. I don't know. But I just thought this case was interesting. So now you know there are German journalists in the US. They're not doing what that award winning guy did 2 years ago, where or at least, yeah, I think it came out approximately 2 years ago, like this Klaus Rhinoceros guy who made up everything. Now, she doesn't make up everything. Okay, I give you that. She's not the grim fairy tale level fake journalist as that guy was, but in very crucial details about very, very serious cases and issues, she is completely lying to Germans. And I think if you look into some other articles and at least on Twitter, she is also lying to Americans. But mostly she is lying to Germans about the US. And she tries to smear the US and smear President Trump, the Republicans, and their supporters as evil people. And she doesn't even use facts. She is not sticking with the truth. She is using, as I showed you very clearly in today's video, she's using lies. Or at least, let me rephrase that, her statements are in 100% contradiction to the video evidence that we have. All right. Take care. Servus, Kameraden.